Welcome to JDM Imported.
Hey, welcome to the JDM Imported podcast. I'm Dante Prinzo, owner of Elusive Auto Company, who is really the star of this podcast. This is the behind-the-scenes look at what I go through importing cars, buying and selling cars, and fixing cars, and everything cars, Japanese, JDM, USDM. So let's get into it. So today we have some things to share. So I'm going to share my most recent pickup, my most recent trip to the port of Savannah, which is where I pick up all of my cars. It's about 4 hours, 4.5 hours each way from where I live in North Carolina. So I want to go over my pickup of the FD, a 1992 Mazda. Well, it's actually JDM, so it's through their Efini branding, if I'm saying that right, EFINI branding. So it's Mazda. Actually, I think it was the 92s. 92 was the first year to 95 is where they went through that branding until they, in Japan, until they were just simply the Mazda RX7s. And we can get into models and things like that. They have, many different series. They have the Type R, the RZ, the RB, the Touring X. More were added all the way until they finished making the FDs, at least over there, in 2002, which I can't wait to get because there was the body redesign, new front end. Many will call those the cat eyes. It's just beautiful. But anyways, so in this episode, we're going to touch on how that trip went, what I found out, and most importantly, this is the episode where I'm going to share step by step the importing process. Now, you might think, Dante, that's a little dumb. If you have a business operating around bringing cars in for people, refurbishing them and selling them, why would you show people how to do it? Why wouldn't they just do it themselves? Well, here's my theory. I don't think it has many holes in it, but listen, you disagree, let me know. Share some comments. Hit me up on social media, Elusive Auto Co. everywhere. I'd love to hear from you. But my thought is this. It's and I've said this before, and this will continue to be kind of my mantra throughout this podcast. I don't hold the keys. No one who does this, and there's many importers and small ones, big ones, no one holds the keys. This can be found, this can be done, just as anyone can start any business. Sure, there was a lot of legwork. There was a lot of clearances needed, security bonds. We'll go through all that stuff that make the process easier so you don't have to hire, 3 people to bring a car in for you. That gets expensive. In a long run, that tends to negate whatever you might save doing things yourself. You still, listen, not gonna lie, you can still save some money doing it yourself, but the amount of time, the amount extra it'll cost you over a company like me or any other importer, and what often gets overlooked is the risk mitigation. And I'm gonna touch on this a little bit before we get into the RX7, and then we'll get back to the importing process. Because I understand that there might be some of you that are overseas. Actually, I don't know how many, but I know one for a fact. I got an email from a gent from the UK. Appreciate you, buddy. M. Powell. I don't know anything else about you, but gave me a little shout out in an email. So I figured I'd do the same. So for you, this podcast on how to import in the States might not be relevant for the second half. Still some interesting tidbits, and actually my buyer who lives in Japan is from the UK, so we've talked about a lot of the similarities as he ships cars to the UK, or as he purchases cars for people in the UK. There's a lot of parallels between their rules and ours. But anyway, so yeah, like I was saying, as far as kind of the value that I see in sharing this, and I think really the big thing, like I said, risk mitigation. When you do things on your own, none of these, no one wants to help you. Straight up, no one wants to help you. The people that work at the port, they like to deal with people that know what's going on. Like, it's not their job to educate you. So when you have a question, I can tell you, I've brought a car in through Baltimore. Most of my cars are through Savannah. Quite frankly, well, it's a little closer, but I would drive if there was a port easier to deal with. Baltimore was not fun. I was hung up on multiple times, and this is early in the process. This was like end of 2015, and bad experiences there. They wouldn't tell me when the car was there. I didn't know I was supposed to call them or follow up or anything like that. You're supposed to get an email, an arrival notice, and I didn't get that. The car sits there. I'm wondering what's going on, and then they charge you daily. So these are the things. This is the risk mitigation I'm talking about, and that's on a very small scale. On the larger scale, if you don't submit your forms at the right time, like when the car leaves from Japan, if you don't do your ISF, which is basically a security bond, it's a basic formality. You have to, if you don't know how to do it yourself, you hire someone to do it. Sometimes they charge like $60 for a form that might take 5 minutes to do, but and then they submit it. So, and that's basically like the form that alerts customs that something's coming from overseas. But if you don't do that in the proper time, they could put a general hold, best case scenario, where they charge you more money, when it comes here, or they threaten you with fines. I don't know how enforced that is, because the fines sound ridiculous, and I'm like, come on, someone's going to fine me thousands of dollars for missing a deadline or misrepresentation on this paperwork, but who knows? Might not be a risk that's worth taking for you, and plus the amount of time, and this is just bringing a car in. Finding the right person to look for it is paramount. That is the most important thing, hands down, because these are your eyes and ears for getting something. So anyways, that's my brief overview. Let's get into that, but rewind RX7. So the FD. So I go to pick it up, and this will be, let's call this port story time, little porty time. So, I head off in the morning to Savannah. So in the process is this, I stop at Border Patrol, which is 2 miles away from Ocean Terminal, which is where I actually do my pickup. You stop there, you drop off your appropriate paperwork. Then, and this is another thing, they don't really tell you what you have to do after that, because that's all that, they're very short-sighted, and everyone is. Everything's very segmented and siloed. No one really knows, and even if they do know, they won't tell you, but knows what's going on outside of like their part in the assembly line. So their part is clearing it. They're done. That's it. Then you have to call the shipping company, get a line release so you can go pick up the car at the port, so they can get into some other paperwork. So anyways, stop at Border Patrol. Everything goes smoothly, pay my duty tax, hate it, but necessary. So I do that, and we get down to the port. So I have my TWIC card. So a TWIC card is essentially, they do a background check. Even international through Interpol, I believe. Fingerprints, the whole nine. So they do this whole thing. So and it allows you entrance to the port without an escort. If you don't have one of those, you have to pay an escort. Most ports, it's like $40 or $50 an hour, and they charge. And when I say $50 an hour, if you're there 61 minutes, it's 2 hours. Lesson learned, trust me. And sometimes it's longer than that. And you can't leave their side. It's kind of annoying. So anyways, I got this card a while back just so I can do things myself. And the nice thing is you can bring up to 5 people in one card. So I got that. I also got the general admissions credentials, which is just another kind of security thing where they give you a parking pass. So any car you have, you can go in there. It cuts down on the paperwork. It allows you a little more flexibility once you get in there. So I have all that stuff, and I brought someone down with me, so I go to the gate, and so this is my first gripe. I understand that there's laws for a reason. I appreciate them. Hell, most of the time I abide by them. Sometimes you try to find a way to massage a little bit, massage the calf, work the way up, But every time I've been there, it really depends on who's working, which is going to influence the enforcement of these rules. Like straight up. Last time I went there, and it was the same thing. I went down there, I had my TWIC card, boom, they're like, sign your name, sign that you're an escort for this person, blah, blah, blah. They're going to help you. And then two cars in, two out, and then you can go ahead and load the car up. I just, they don't like you hanging around there. It's just easier to kind of bring it outside the gate and then do kind of your walk around, your load up and all that stuff. So, but to do that, you need two people. I can't drive two cars, and you are not allowed to walk around the port. Since I have that general admissions pass, I technically can with a vest on, but the other person can't. They don't like it. They frown upon it. So last time I was there, guy was totally cool. Port police, he's like, whatever, dude, just make sure, both people are kind of nose to bumper when you're coming out, and it's all good. I'm like, oh, sweet. So not even a thing. So that lends me to believe that that's the rules, right? It's not the rules. It's not at all. It's just I was with a pretty laxed guy that day, and this week when I went down, the guy was not so laxed. So and listen, there is a lot of value in just keeping your cool, being casual, appreciating where people are coming from, right? Like, people are grumpy in the DMV for a reason. Think about it. If you're doing their job, and it's like, man, you're basically like it's kind of the equivalent. Is just like stamping a piece of paper over and over. Like, it's that basic to them. Because think, they do it day in and day out. Title, registration, you don't have your insurance. Like, it has to be the most monotonous shit ever. So I get why they're like grumpy, and especially when people aren't ready and they have to repeat it. It's like the people at TSA that have to keep telling people to take your shoes off. Like, yeah, I'd be a little grumpy too. So you know what? Let's have a little levity. Let's take a step back and kind of appreciate that everyone has a different viewpoint. And I take that to heart. So I'm always kind of like, nice, how you doing? Like, try a little small talk, lighten up the mood a little bit. Cause again, usually these people are grumpy. Man, I got Grumper McGrumperson, when I went to pick this thing up. I mean, dude was like, I showed up there. I was like, Twit card. I have this person. He's like, so what are you looking to do? I'm like, pick up a card. I mean, really, it doesn't matter. I have the credentials. Just let me in. He's like, well, you're not going in like this, his exact words. So I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean? Is my fly down? Like, I have my reflector vest. Like, I'm all ready to roll, man. And he didn't even have to ask. Like, it's like, boom, Twit card, parking pass, admissions. Like, I'm all good. Like, and I even asked him, I was like, hand me the guest form. I'll sign off on this person. And like, he didn't have to do anything, right? But he's like, no, you're not. I'm like, why is that, officer? And he's like, well, I don't know this person. Do they have a Twit card? I'm like, well, of course. Like, we're straight. You don't know me either. Nice to meet you. I'm Dante. So a little bit of back and forth. Again, I'm keeping like my cool because, if these people want to be a dick and won't let me in, like, that's kind of a problem. I just drove 4.5 hours. So he tells us to pull up to the front, like in front of the gate, comes out. A much nicer, kind of a good cop, bad cop thing. Guy comes out. He explains. He's like, yeah, Mr. Prinzo, you're totally right. You can have up to 5 guests. But port policy is that they can't leave your side. I was like, oh, I totally. He'll be right next to me, and we'll pull out bumper to bumper. He's like, that means being in a different car. We can't let that happen. So, listen, I get it. Maybe there was a security breach. Maybe they're being audited. Who knows, right? And they just had to force, and it was my bad luck. But this kind of goes again to my point. Like, I'd rather the rules be strict and consistent than strict in, sometimes I can get away with it, sometimes I can't, because that really kills planning. So now, for instance, I'm just going to have to come in with a trailer and pick up a car myself. And, if they give me some issues for being in there too long, hooking a car up and stuff, they're just going to have to deal with it, because I'm not going to have another one get a Twit card and go through all that stuff, maybe down the road when I have employees, but I digress. Anyways, so, good cop comes over and he's like, yeah, that's how it is, dude. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm like, well, there's got to be some options. There's someone you could talk to. Like, I appreciate you, but like someone you could talk to. So he has his boss come over, and his boss was like, yeah, you know what? We'll let it go. But it's just, just so you know, we can't be doing this. And again, if someone with me does something, I'm taking complete responsibility as an escort for that person, and they have everything on me. It's not like they ask my name. The Twit card is like 5 fingerprints, a whole handprint. They had me do this weird thing where I had to touch my wrist to a pressure sensor. I don't see what my pulse was. Who knows? I don't know what the hell was going on, but it's like crazy crazy lockdown. So, I mean, it's not like they can't find me if someone that comes in with me just, steals a shift knob or something, which almost always happens before the car's exported, but it's another time. So anyways, they let us in. So sigh of relief, I can get the car. I go to the main house there, get the paperwork, wait for the clerk, go and get the car. So let's talk this car. Woo! This car. So I love FDs, no secret. One of my favorite chassis, period. I love the rotary. Say what you may about the sequential turbos, about all the vacuum hoses, the pressure hoses, and all the issues in the heat, apex seals. I get it. I love them. They sound sweet. And really, for those of yous, sound like I'm from Jersey here. Not that that's a bad thing, but I love Goodfellas. I think some of that Joe Pesci comes out of me sometimes. Anyways, the power delivery. The power delivery is really hard to explain. It's like if somebody hasn't driven one, you just need to get in one. It's just the smoothest surge. It's kind of like when you drive a turbo car, you're kind of standard, call it a V6 or 4-cylinder inline 6, and you kind of anticipate the surge, right? So your body's almost ready for it, whereas the rotary, it almost feels like you're being pushed. Like if someone comes up, like you're already running, and then someone much faster comes up behind you and just starts pushing you, but you didn't know they were coming. You know what I mean? It's just this but it's a smooth surge that's kind of surprising, and it continues to increase, because it's, you have your first, the first turbo's around 1,800 RPMs, 0.7 bar. The second one, if you're full throttle, 4,000 RPMs to hold the 7 bar. So it's just like, man, and it is, when it's working well, seamless. I mean, yes, I like the simplicity of a single turbo swap, but driving a stock one really, it gives you a lot of appreciation for where Mazda was and how visionary they were. I mean, they went out, who did they were, Hitachi, I think it was Hitachi Limited, the manufacturer in Japan. They were the ones that helped design the sequential turbo. I mean, it was the first mass production sequential turbo set up in a car, so really forward thinking stuff. And then obviously the rotary was really, I don't want to say ahead of its time, but it was very unique. That's been around for decades and decades before any of the RX7 iterations. But so really happy with the car. I mean, condition is what I thought, and that's why I bought it, because really I was looking for something low mileage with a clean chassis. Original paint, so I knew what I was getting into. Understanding completely that a 25, 26-year-old car, I mean, the paint, if it's original, it's going to need repainted. Like the clear coat's going to be just trash. But I wanted to know what I was getting into with paneling and things like that, and I wanted one that was fairly stock, maybe some fun bits on it. And this one fit the bill. I mean, the chassis was really straight, really nice. Underside of it doesn't look like it was beat up too much, jacked up too many times. Had some service history, all the things I was looking for. So, and it's always, you look at the cars before they ship, and I talk to my buyer, and like hours we talk in crazy detail, a lot of pictures, 30 plus pictures, videos, startups, all that good stuff. And you try to make the best decision, and you really trust that person. But a lot happens between the time of purchasing the car in Japan, waiting for it to ship, the shipping company's rolling it on the ship, rolling it off the ship, and then it's import here stateside. And I mean, it is far from rare. I mean, put it this way, it's the exception when you get a car that maybe you purchased with a stereo and a shift knob that gets delivered with a stereo and a shift knob. I mean, it's the exception. This is one of, I don't know, out of the last 5, this is one of 2 cars that has still had a shift knob and stereo. Either or, something's been missing somewhere. So that was really nice. It's kind of cool, like old Panasonic with dolphins on it that kind of swim when it's not doing anything. It's just like that quirky Japanese stuff that I love. So, in the car mechanically, obviously needed a jump. Everything's going to need a jump. And I had to charge the battery up for a while, but once it had the jump, first time start, idled beautifully. Cold idle, held it up high, like, a little below 2,000 RPMs around there, then dropped it down to the 700 RPMs, held steady, which is really huge for the rotaries. Huge victory there. So happy with that. I mean, sure, it was totally filthy, and the body was in shape that I thought. I mean, some of the moldings were in worse shape than I expected, but I was planning on replacing them anyway, because I'm going to be doing a respray on the car, the factory black, and I want to do it right. So you could always tape around all the molding around the windows and stuff, but some of those seals are tricky and it's hard to get a crisp line. So I'm replacing them anyway. So I'm going to take them off before paint and really kind of strip that thing down so we can get some good smooth lines and have it look as it should. A really nice example, because mechanically it's great. Super compliant suspension, like everything feels good. The bushings look like they should on a, it's 53,000 kilometers. So like low 30s, was that like 33,000 miles on it, which it looks like that. I mean, it definitely looks like it's been stored in the sun, as with most of those, and it's 2+ decades old, but yeah, so I have some replacement parts for, so it's pretty typical, the vents in the dash that are closest to the windshield, real long vent that goes across. Those in the USDM, the JDM models, those are almost always going to be cracked, super brittle. They get a ton of heat straight on them. So I have the replacement for that, a couple other vents, a couple other moldings, the window moldings. There were some surprises, like around the door handles, there was a couple missing pieces of molding, but that looked like they just got dry, and brittle. So I'm going to replace those, really go over the car. I mean, obviously full maintenance, changing all the fluids and, getting the doors. Another common thing with those FDs is the doors, you need a little lithium grease on them, as with most cars, of that age, but they, the hinges will get the slides there will get kind of tight, and already are hard doors to shut. I mean, even on one that's like super pristine, hasn't been in the sun, like those things from the factory came crazy sealed up. I mean, hence why if you've seen any videos or know anyone with an FD, when you close the doors, if you have a sunroof in one, it always pops up. Like, I mean, those things seal up tight. So those are always doors you had to give a little grunt to, a little muscle, get the booty in when you're slamming those things shut. But that is then, exaggerated when you have some door slides, not the hinges, but the actual slide part that needs a little lube on it. So, but yeah, so I'm excited. I'm going to go over that car, and really with this one, other than just maintenance and making everything fresh, it's really going to be aesthetics. It'll be paint, it'll be the interior. I'm going to do some reconditioning on the interior, some pieces that are scratched but in really nice shape. I'm just going to refinish them, because if they're good, why mess with them? But yeah, so that's the RX7. Man, I am really happy with that car. It's one of those cars that I've always loved. So you're always, I mean, listen, this is my business, to sell cars, to continue to grow and develop and offer some more solutions to people. And to do that, I have to sell some stuff. So, food for thought. So anyone interested in an FD? So I'm 6'4". No joke. USDM models, I'm okay in. Like, seriously, it's tight, but I'm good. Like, I can still steer, I can still get in and out. Like, it's all right. Japanese versions, you lose maybe 2 to 3 inches of lateral leg room. Reason why, the e-brake. So the e-brake is on the same side on the USDM and JDM models. The only thing that changes is the side the steering wheel's on. So USDM model, you're sitting on the left side, and the e-brake is on the right side of the console. So cool. So your leg has all that room between the center console and the steering wheel. Not a lot of room. I mean, it's a tight cabin, but still. On the right-hand drive version, steering wheel on the right-hand drive, e-brake on the right-hand drive. And I mean, for reference, if you have an iPhone, either an 8 or an X, not the plus size, but just kind of like the normal size, the width of that iPhone is about how much room you have between the handle of the e-brake and the steering wheel, because the steering wheel sits super low, and in this model at least isn't adjustable. So I could jam myself in there, but the whole time I'm driving it, leg contact with everything. I would definitely, like, if this was a car for me, I'd put a Race It bucket in it immediately, and just sit my ass on the floor. But yeah, so yeah, really excited for that car to be done. I mean, I thought this car was going to be way after I sell the FC, but I have that 1990 FC turbo, right-hand drive, and that car has taken a lot longer to get the body work done on that, get that looking to the point where I'm happy with it, fitting the body kit on it and the side skirts. So, I was kind of stressing about the summer months. Not as important around here locally. I mean, I get that. I'm in North Carolina, so our motoring season is lengthy. Really the off season's maybe like 3 months. I come from Pittsburgh, and it's the reverse of that. You might get 2 or 3 good months. So, I'm always in this mentality. I'm like, I got to capitalize. It's summertime. Got to have inventory. So I'm gonna have, and I'm like, am I gonna have this lull? Well, as things work out, I mean, next month I have the Cedric coming, and I have these 2 RX7s that they don't sell. I'll have an inventory of 3, which is kind of cool. At least I'll have some stuff to show. But yeah, I mean, the main thing is to have some cars over the summer months to kind of get us going to the next phase here. But so the FC should be. I hate putting a timetable. The FC should be ready in like 2 weeks, I think. The FD might actually be painted and ready to roll before then. And then I'd just be waiting on the title. Usually takes, at least in this state, once you submit the paperwork, it takes like, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks. But anyways, so let's move on. And really, now that I'm looking at it, I probably could have made two episodes, but let's just put this all in one, So I'm going to go over, and really I'm not going to get into like just absolute monotonous details. But I'm going to go over all the steps of bringing a car in. So you ready? Ready for this? Let's do it. So you want to import a car from Japan to the U.S. First thing you need to do, find someone reputable to do it for you, or to at least look at the car. So you want to find someone that's stateside over there. My suggestion is stay away from any companies that it's strictly email interaction. Because you're going to have a lot of barriers with communication. A lot of them are English speaking, but it's not. It's definitely the second language, far removed, and you don't want things getting lost in translation when you're purchasing a car and kind of putting yourself out there. So step 1, you find someone you trust. Sidebar: I offer a service where I do absolutely everything for you. You get to pick the car, I bring it in, but that's for another day. Keep it in mind though. The next thing you need to do, so you start sourcing the car, you figure out, most cases you're going to get it from an auction. There are some options elsewhere to get it from dealers. A lot of dealers in Japan don't want to really mess with exporting because they lose on the local tax, and quite frankly, they can make more, and it's less hassle, less paperwork. So not a lot of dealers are into exporting cars or selling them to like brokers and things like that, but they're out there. So it'll be an auction. Auction life is hell. A lot of competition. You have to have a loose budget. I mean, you are not, like, if your goal is to get the best deal on a car, you're just never going to win a car. And if you do, it's a car no one else wants, which kind of tells you which you didn't want to hear, right? So you have to have kind of a flexible budget. And the person purchasing it for you should be able to kind of align your expectations. So let's say you go through all that, you're like, boom, Sylvia, I want it, sweet. Now it needs to be exported. So usually the companies or the purchaser submits the export documents, which is essentially the export certificate, which is the equivalent of like the domestic title over there, and some other exporting paperwork that they take care of. Very simple, very basic. They do that, they drop it off on the port, and then it's time to schedule shipping. So to schedule the shipping, hopefully your exporter can do that for you. Going through the shipping companies yourself is kind of a pain. And most exporters do. I mean, it's just kind of a thing. Like the shipping companies will be physically at the port where you drop it off. So you just kind of go off there and you're like, boom, like what's the schedule? And sometimes the cars are quick. Sometimes the schedules are not that spaced out, but a lot of it's seasonal. Wintertime, not as many shipments. This time of year, it's like, every week, depending on the liner. Like a big one is W&W and Hogue Asia. And those are usually the two that are coming in. There might be another one. Those are just the only two that I've had experience with. And again, they all have their caveats. You know, some are a little more strict about is there anything in the car rule, some aren't. So, and from there, you know, they should take care of like I said, the exporting, the logistics as far as getting it scheduled. And then the ports will usually, and then the packers will then, you know, look over the car. They usually do like a cleaning, make sure there's no foreign objects. They give it kind of the badge to go ahead. They give it the stamp, the sign off, and then your car just sits and it waits to be shipped. Shipping 4 to 5 weeks, depending, but I'd say 4 to 5 weeks on a boat. Most of the shipping, unless you do a container, is going to be row, which is roll on, roll off, which means, which I prefer, you know, unless you have a car that's hyper modified, too low to do anything with, and kind of tricky to drive. That's the way you want to do it, just because it's in the belly of the ship. Yes, people are driving your car, but there's a little less movement down there. Obviously, it's closed off from the elements. You know, it's sealed off a little better than even, you know, container if it's in the middle of the belly of the ship. So, but with that, you know, there's pros and minuses. With that, you know, people can kind of get in and out of your car, which is why shift knobs probably disappear. But so anyway, so it comes stateside. So once it leaves the port, you then have to file an ISF. An ISF is essentially a security bond. It's alerting, like I alluded to earlier, alerting to the CBP, to the customs office, that you will be importing this vehicle. And it also shares the bill of landing information, which the simplest way to think of a bill of landing is it's a number created. It's essentially a tracking number. So it has, you know, the VIN, where it came from, where it's going, the details there. So you submit this ISF with your bill of landing. Now they can track it. Now they can kind of plan on it, do whatever they need to do, all their redundancy upon redundancy. And then once you have that submitted, really you can just chill for a while. You don't really need to do much less. You don't really have to do much else. There we go. Much else until the car's, you know, about a week away. So now, if you're doing this yourself, you need to hire a import broker. So you would do that, you know, maybe a couple weeks before the car gets in. You would share with them all of your information, the bill of landing number, and the bill of landing paperwork that you receive from your exporter, your ISF. Maybe you use the same company to do your ISF. But anyways, you give them everything, and they are the ones that will then essentially clear the car through customs for you. They charge a fee, you know, to fill out the paperwork. They charge a fee to submit it. It's outlandish with some charge for the paperwork there, but I mean, listen, it's a business. They do take on all the risks, so for accuracy, so that kind of washes your hands from any kind of repercussions from having things incorrectly or fines. So anyways, they would then themselves hold an import bond. Like I hold an import bond. You update it yearly, and it basically just gives you the right to submit this paperwork, you know, and fill this stuff out and bring a car in through your name. But so you would hire a company. They do that for you. It'd be in their name. They, you know, transfer it over. But pretty straightforward there. And then they would fill out. So they fill out the HS7, the 3520. And yeah, so essentially the, I don't know why I'm getting stupid technical, the EPA exemption, the DOT exemption, and they would fill out the entry summary, which the entry summary is basically all the details where the car came from, what car it is, who it's going to, who the consignee is, their address, who the importer is, their number, what else? The value of the car. That's where you settle up with your duty taxes, MPF fee, which is $8. I think it went up. It's like $9.25. But anyways, so you know your broker should take care of all this stuff. They submit that paperwork to the border patrol, who then approves it. You would pay your duty tax through them, through this broker. And once that's done, technically, once the duty tax is paid and all this stuff is looked over and stamped off on, like your car's, you're free to pick it up. Now, they now from a timing standpoint, this might, I mean, it's not always a given, but sometimes they will hold your vehicle to look it over. Maybe they found something, or maybe it's just kind of a random thing. And so you always have to call before you pick up the car. So, but the brokers will take care of all the paperwork there, and now your car is technically cleared. Once it's cleared, you or your broker, someone needs to reach out to the shipping company for them to issue a line release. You also have to call the port, and again, depending on your broker, the port, each port's different. Most charge a handling fee, $70. And if you did this yourself, they'd also charge you on top of that a $120 fee for I don't know what. Like really, I don't know what. Because until I got my my customs bond, like my clearance and stuff for the port, they would always ask, is this the first time you've brought something in? And I would always say yes, over and over and over and over again, because for the first time they waive it. The second time they charge you like 120 plus a 70. It's kind of a headache. But anyway, so you will then have your arrival notice. You will have your bill of landing, your export certificate, your DOT, your EPA, and your delivery order. And all that stuff goes to the house. You package all that stuff up real nice. You go to Ocean Terminal or wherever the house of the port is. You hand it to them. They say, cool, we're good. And then they send you out and you wait for your clerk. And then the clerk is basically someone that holds your hand over to the pen, which is where they keep the cars. And you pick up your car. And really, you're good to go. You just roll out after that. So that is the process. So I've tracked it, I mean, from the time of trying to source a car. So from sourcing to, from sourcing to bringing it home, it is, call it 15 steps. Yeah, 15 steps. And then once you bring it home, it's up to you, depending on the state. Good luck if you're in California. There are ways around that. If you have questions, let me know. But in almost all other states, you submit all of those documents from the Border Patrol. You submit the documents. Well, actually, really, you just need the ones from the Border Patrol. So those main three that I mentioned earlier, the entry summary, EPA, the DOT. You take your export certificate, which is essentially the title for the car, and proof of insurance in your ID, and you take that to your local DMV. They need to then do an inspection, similar to what you would do on a salvage car, where they just need to inspect and make sure it is what it is, right? They don't go through it too closely. I mean, it's really, let's make sure the VINs match, and if someone drove it there, like it's good enough to be on the road, and that's about it, And then they give you an inspection report. They sign off on that, and then you can then go and register your car, and send away to get the state title, and you send up. And this is the sketchy thing, but it's also important to make copies, even though the copies might not do you well. But make a copy of all of your documents from this, because you send every original to your state, to the special titles unit, when you're trying to get your all of this stuff converted to a state title. And I don't know about you, but that freaks me out, because I know there's how am I going to get another Japanese title for a car if it gets lost? You know what I mean? So at least if you have, I imagine you still need originals, but at least if you have copies of stuff, and God forbid something happens, someone loses something, doesn't process it, whatever, you at least have the information, and you can start on the trail to fixing things up. So that's in a nutshell. Really, it's like I said, it's nothing I owe the keys to. It takes a lot of trial and error, I think, to get it smooth to the point where I can do it seamlessly. I don't have to go back and forth with anyone. It's definitely a lot cheaper for me to do it, holding a yearly continuous import bond, the security bond stuff, and all the security stuff for the port. It's definitely a lot cheaper for me to do it than someone else, which is why I say, really, I'm curious. Naturally curious, and I just want to know how things work. So if you're that way, you want to jump into it, you really don't care about saving a ton of money, headache and stuff, that's cool. That's what I did, and I had a blast doing it. I learned a lot, and look at where it led to. Now it's not like I have this booming business, but I got something I'm working with, kicking the dust around a little bit. So, but if you're one that just is really an enthusiast and really just kind of wants the car and wants to get rolling with it and thinks, oh, maybe I'll save some dollars doing this, not really worth it, because it just, have someone else do it for you, and there's companies, I mean, some will just kind of charge you whatever they think the car is worth. So like, say you want to bring a Skyline in, and I'm talking stateside company, say you want to bring a car in, but you have specific needs, and you just want to pick it up. Like you just want to pick it up in like Virginia or in Washington, whatever coast you're on. And you just wanted to have a state title and you transfer it like you would any used car. Definitely companies do that for you. And then they charge you whatever the market is, which is cool. I think it's a good service. I mean, what I'm doing, and again, I appreciate any feedback, but I think this will be helpful because the hardest thing right now is inventory. Right. I mean, there's a lot more of these right-hand drive cars, but if you're looking for something specific that someone doesn't have many of, you don't have many to compare, you know what I mean? It's, some people are looking for certain colors, models. I mean, and you don't want to settle, like if you want to pick something, then yeah, I mean, the service I offer is completely transparent. So actually I would share, I have a separate login for customers to access the database of all the cars, like all the cars up for auction and some of the dealer cars and stuff like that. And we would just go through them. You pick the car you want, we go after it. And basically that's it. You as the buyer, I mean, you'd be paying for, anything associated with the car, right? So like shipping, taxes, stuff like that. And then I charge a flat fee to get it all done. And basically, have it ready. I mean, even once it's stateside, submitting all the documents so you can get a state title. I mean, like everything. So really, you don't have to do anything but wait. It takes patience. It absolutely does. It's nice to go into inventory and grab a car. You want to get your own source. I mean, 2 to 3 months maybe, but you get what you want. You were involved in it. And then you kind of have the peace of mind of transparency. You know exactly what everything costs. It's not just kind of like whatever the market is now, like what your Sylvia was wholesale, what the auction fees might have been, what the shipping was, what the duty was, all itemized, all laid out, and it's ready to roll. So I'm going to start pushing that pretty soon. I think it'll be helpful. I mean, I hope people are into it. If they're not, I mean, that's fine. I really want to be service oriented. I mean, I really want to offer more than just, hey, here's the cars. Like, yeah, I do a lot of work to them. I try to make them really nice. I'm not just kind of washing them and selling them, but I want to provide some more service, some more value other than just, hey, here's some cars to buy as they come up. Let me know if you know anyone. You know what I mean? And listen, the service to bring a car in, if you sign up with me, yes, there's a fee for it, but asking questions, inquiring is totally free. I mean, just come at me anyway. I mean, seriously, like I've had plenty of conversations. I've had walk-arounds with people that are even just curious about cars. I'd be more than happy to just make a video, a little walk around, kind of tour the car, start up in a drive so you can really get a good feel for it rather than just checking out some pictures online, some glamour shots and stuff. And I'm more than happy. Like I said, I want to help educate. If you're not a customer, if you don't want to be a customer and you're just curious, hit me up. Like any questions. I mean, I didn't want to make this too detailed and boring about step by step how to import a car. I just kind of wanted to go down the checklist. But any specific questions about that, let me know. I'm more than happy. Like I've answered my buyer in Japan. He's had people from other countries ask him questions and refer them to me, even though I don't know why, but I mean, like regarding cars and specific stuff. And then he's had some people in the States that reached out to him, and since he really only deals with businesses and kind of turns away like people are going to be ordering just one car for themselves, he'll send them to me, and I mean, they never really turn into anything for me, but as far as tangible business, but I can share what I know, and really. It makes everyone's life easier, because my thought is this, and in closing, of where we are with the import car culture, and it's great and it's booming, and this right-hand drive thing has really injected new life into it, because we have new chassis, even older chassis to us that we've had before, but cleaner and more options, and with more engine options and stuff. Like it's really injected some interesting vigor in the culture, and I think that can continue to rise if we just continue to bring these cars in and share, because as many people that know about them, a lot don't know much. I get a lot of questions that are very basic, which tells me, people haven't really even Google searched or haven't been around these things, and that's totally fine. Like sometimes it just helps to talk to somebody. And they can kind of put your mind at ease, or if you're thinking about this, you either say, this is my path, or maybe I'll just stick with like what I know and just chill with the left-hand drive cars. Because I get a lot of reach out that's, where I guess it's assumed that bringing a car in is just really, I don't know, you find Japan Partner online and you send them an email, and then they send you, here's the cost FOB, which, by the way, FOB doesn't really mean anything. It means free on board. So technically all that's saying is the car belongs to you once it ships, but you have to do everything else, to get things rolling. So little sidebar there, but it's, I just think it's helpful to know about the process for people, that it's not simple, but it's not completely overwhelming either. So I'm on all medias, Elusive Auto Co., Twitter, YouTube channel. Actually, I'm putting some of the podcasts on. I'm finishing up some videos. I'm doing some behind the scene videos of the FC build, which I should have up there, some walkarounds and some kind of behind the scenes of the FD, pretty much all the cars and what's going on here. It'll be kind of vloggy style, but I don't know. I just think it shows another window into the kind of the industry and in these cars, and help spread knowledge, because really the more knowledge we have, the more enthusiasts we have, and that's a good thing. The more people that know about these, are the more people that are going to want them. And I don't see any drawback in that, to getting more of these cars on the road. I know, listen, I'm guilty of it too. I know that we always want to have the unique car and the different car, but trust me, we all have that ability to customize, right? Like, we're in this to make these cars our own. There was how many hundreds of thousands of Civics. They were big for a long, long, long time. And people made them their own and still loved them. So, let's not hate on more right-hand drives coming in and more Supras. That's a good thing, because all that means is more aftermarket support, more parts. Because like right now, if you have a cracked windshield in a Laurel or something like that, what are your options? The more of those that come in, there's going to be more companies like myself. P.S. I'm kind of looking into bringing in some parts like that, but that will see value in bringing in parts that you need to support your hobby, your habit, and just make it better for everybody. So that's it. Look me up. DM me any questions on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Join in the conversation. Look forward to hearing from you out there. Happy driving. Later.